So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZW Games 5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube, Dad here from Zephyr Games, bringing you my Gizmeck Orochi Gren Manji deck profile. Now, Gren Manji is one of them very under the cosh rogue decks, in the sense that Gren Manji is a very powerful card, and as the kind of game is going further forward, we are getting more cards that allow us to banish cards, and Gren Manji can be a very powerful normal summon that can win the game on his own. However, now that we've got the introduction of the Gizmeck Orochi, it gives us additional banish fodder and an additional summon that can disrupt our opponent or cause a lot of damage. So, I'm going to take you through the profile, show you exactly what we've got, how you build it, and kind of why the deck is as powerful and as rogue as it can be. Especially right now in the format, in the sense that I don't believe Gren Manji's effect activates when it summons. So it means that even if you banish stuff and your opponent negates it, so if you go like Desires, they negate it, you go somewhere else, they negate it, they go somewhere else, they negate it, you could still just drop a Gren Manji on board with all these banished fodder and then crash over one of their monsters for game. So it can still be very powerful. So let's get started. So we start off with the monsters, and of course a Gren Manji deck is not complete if you do not play triple Gren Manji. Obviously this card is the attack and defense of this card become the number of your cards removed from play times 400. So 10 is 4k, 20 is of course 8k, 12k for 30. If you've got to 30, I think it's mathematically possible to resolve 3 dualities, pot desires, but to get to that far you're going to be looking for a bit. We then have triple Gizmeck Orochi, the Serpentron Sky Slasher. This is the brand new card. It's only about 8 quid. It came out in Rising Rampage. Now, the reason I play free is because we do have a Law of Darkness, so it can be used as easy fodder. But this card is, if it's in your hand or graveyard, quick effect, you banish 8 cards from the top of your deck face down. Special summon this card, banish 3 cards from your extra deck face down, then target 1 face-up monster on the field, destroy it. You can only use 1 Gizmeck Orochi, the Supreme Sky Slash effect per turn, and only once that turn. So that's the only downside, is it can't use both. But it's still very powerful. It can disrupt your opponent, or it's just an additional banish 8. So straight away, if you've done Desires and then you do 8 off of this, your Gren Manji is on 7,200 just on attack, and then your Orochi is on 2,415. Not to mention, if you do pull off this guy as well, and that is triple Eater of Millions, your banish pile will be 23, making your Gren Manji 9,200. Then you've got an Eater of Millions, which will gain all of the face down. So if you've done a Desires, plus the 8, plus the 5, so that will actually be on 13. So this one is quick maths, 10, 15, plus 8, 23. So then you have a 2,300 Eater of Millions as well. So you've got a lot of power just off of banishing and using your normal summon. For protection, we do play triple Swift Scarecrow, triple Battle Fader. These are just there to drop on your opponent, so you have no cards. Drop on your opponent and protect yourself. Now, in this build, you could argue that you could go more aggressive. And by more aggressive, what I mean is, there's a couple of ways of playing this deck. Instead of the Battle Faders, you can go for back row, but I think back row is more susceptible. The best thing about this is it can't be called by the grave, unless there's already one engraved, but they banish themselves anyway, so they can't actually call by the grave this card sometimes if it's been played correctly. Swift Scarecrow has to negate the attack, so if they were to like pop the monster, dodge the monster, anything like that, then they can continue going through. But if you wanted to go more aggression and pretty much just say, right, I'm going second, you're going first, let you build your board, I'm going to try and break it, you would take out your Battle Faders and your Swift Scarecrows, purely going for the fact that you want to be winning on your first turn. You would then put in stuff like Veilers, Ogres, Kaijus, anything that kind of breaks your opponent's boards, just so that you can then set up your Gren Manji. Obviously, the issue is you do rely on your Gren Manju quite heavily, so you've got to be very, very careful if you go all in on one type of play. The reason we've got this one is we've got the ability to OTK, we've got the hand traps in there as well to stun our opponent, and we've got the cards to break our opponent's board. You're then looking at, if you do not finish them off that turn, you do have ways of surviving the turn after. We've then got 2 Necrophase because it is at 2, but this will then allow you, after you've done all of your banishing off of your first 3, if you then were able to get Necrophase, it has to be normal summoned, it would put all of the banished stuff back into the deck, gain attack for those cards going back into the deck, and then you can just use them all over again. Then for the hand traps, we've got 2 Ash Blossom, 2 Prankatops. We are going second, so just for an additional free summon of a 2600 beta, that can then also out any kind of issues you might have. And then 2 Phantastical Dragon Phantasmes. These can also be, like I said, any other hand traps, so Veilers, Ogres. This is just the ability to fix your hand so you can get an additional way of digging into your Gren Manju. Plus, it stops your opponent targeting your Gren Manju with an Effect Veiler, or of course an Impermanence that turn as well, because you can negate it with Phantasme. Moving on to the spells, instead of Kaijus, I've gone with Super Poly, purely because I think Super Poly can break a board more consistently. The fact your opponent can't respond to it, and you get, 9 out of 10, you'll be getting into a Venom Dragon, which of course can then boost itself up even more. And you've got to be targeting. You've then got a special summon, so you're not going into your extra deck as much. So you've got the special summon on board, which is an additional monster. So then if you combo that off with an Orochi, an Eater of Millions, and a Gren Manju, there's no reason why you shouldn't have game. Again, another option to this would be, of course, stuff like Kaijus. The only issue with Kaijus is right now that I kind of see boards being built with more than, they're not just one negate. So there's never just one card you want to Kaiju. The only way that this would be better is if you were to use the Dark Kaiju to Kaiju one of your opponent's monsters, then Super Poly, leaving that Dark Kaiju on board, bringing out your Venom Dragon. Venom Dragon then steals the attack of the Kaiju you've special summoned, and technically you've then got rid of 3 troublesome monsters rather than 2. So that's entirely up to you on how you'd want to go with that one. Then the most important card of the deck, and that's 3 Pot Desires. Banishing this, if you combo it off with one of your side deck cards of Soul Absorption, gives you an additional 5k in time, which is why this card's so good. The reason I've took this out is because I want to be going with a bit more aggression. Banish 10, puts your Gren Manju up to 4k straight away. Obviously, what you want to do is before you activate this, you need to kind of make sure that you have a Gren Manju in hand or a way to get to Gren Manju, and push your plays further forward that way. We've then got triple Allure of Darkness. Banishing Necrophase could be very, very good because it gives you additional banishes. You're also playing 3 Orochis. You've got your Eater of Millions, which can also be fodder. Your Phantasme can be fodder. And of course your Battle Fader can be fodder as well. Not that you want to be using them as massive fodder, but you've just got a lot more targets in the deck right now. That Allure of Darkness is an additional good draw card. And the reason I'd play Allure of Darkness over Duality is because I special summon a lot. And the reason I'm playing this above Pot of Extravagance again is because I want to be using my extra deck for Orochi and Eater of Millions rather than that, and I'd rather use Desires because it's more effective banishing 10 than it is banishing 6. We've then got 2 DDR, so if you do banish your Gren Manju off of either your Necrophase or of course the 1 Gold Sark that we play, you have a way of getting it back straight away. We then also play the Monster Reborn, so if it's in the Banish Zone or Graveyard, as long as it's face up, you can get it back. And then bring it out onto the board as well. It's just going to give you a nice 4k, if not more, beta to play around with. The 1 Raigeki, I know a bit old school playing Raigeki nowadays, but if you can't break your opponent's board with your Super Poly, or even if you do break your opponent's board with Super Poly and then leave them with monsters that can't protect themselves, Raigeking it clear leaves you wide open to just kill them for game with your Gren Manju and additional plays from there. Not to mention that if you're worried about back row, that's where you can start putting in Twin Twisters, but again, that all comes into the side deck. The back row that's probably most worrying right now is anything to do with the Subterra deck, because they've got like Crackdown and stuff. And then anything to do, like Crescendo is probably the only other one, and Sky Strikers, but that's stuff that you kind of deal with your side deck plays. And then for the last of the spells, we play the 1 Dimensional Fissure. The best thing about this is it's actually an anti-hand trap card. Because any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead, the hand traps that specifically say must be discarded to the graveyard can't be used under D-Fissure. So the ones like that, I believe, is Ghost Ogre, Effect Veiler. It does hurt your Swift Scarecrow, but Ash is the only one. Ash and Impermanence can kind of get past that because it just says discard those cards. So that could be very, very useful. And then we've got triple Impermanence just to kind of stun our opponent a little bit more. This, of course, can be used and can't be called by the grave, which is why we choose this over Veiler. And it can be very, very important. Again, if you don't want to try it, we've got like a bit of a balance here. So we've got the Disrupt cards during our opponent's turn when they go first with Impermanence, Ash, and Phantasme. Then alternatively, you can go for Veilers, Ogres, anything like that. And then you kind of push play further forward from there. Moving on to the extra deck. Now the extra deck really isn't that. It's important for your super poly targets, but other than that, it's not really. You're using it more as fodder than anything else, which is why we play 2 Link Karibo. So we get rid of the Link Karibos off of our Swift Scarecrow, our Battle Fader, and our Eater of Millions should we need to, and it gives you a nice little bit of additional protection. Because you tribute this off, reduce a monster's attack to 0, and then you're open for Battle Fader plays and stuff like that. For our Link 2s, we've got 2 Lambda, just because it's generic Link 2, very rarely you'll ever actually need it, but because it is the most powerful generic Link 2 right now, it's still very, very useful. Then, of course, for the last of our links, we've got the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, the 1 Nightmare Cerberus, and the 1 Nightmare Phoenix. Again, just for the pure generic power of these cards as well. We don't play any Link 4s because it's very rare that when you get 4 monsters on board, you're going to want to link them away. So right now, you don't need to worry about that. Super Poly targets we've kind of maxed out on. So we've got 2 Violent Chimeras, 2 Predapron, Drago Stelia, and then we've got 2 Venom and 2 Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Just because Mud Dragon of the Swamp is kind of generic, you can hit pretty much any of the road decks. Venom hits any of the dark decks right now, so you're looking at stuff like Thunder Dragons, and you're also looking at stuff like Orcus as well, any kind of variant for that. Your Dracos Pelias, purely because, again, it hits Thunder Dragons, but it just hits any fusion monster, so it can also hit Pendulums quite nicely as well. Get rid of their Vortex, and then get rid of their Abyss. And then obviously Salamangreat, Violet Chimera, purely for Salamangreats. Less being represented right now because of the ban list. If you wanted to take this deck to Worlds or something like that, you could. You would probably take out the Pelio. You can bump any of these up to 3 if you want to, or that's where you could possibly put in a Link 4 monster. It just gives you a little bit of room to play around with. Like I said, Orochi is random, whereas Eater of Millions, you choose the 5 that you get rid of. So it kind of, let me just double check. Oh no, sorry. So Orochi lets you choose, and Eater also lets you choose, I believe. Yeah, it doesn't say like random, I don't think. So I think they let you choose what you banish. But either way, it still gives you a lot to play around with and a lot of power to choose. So you could put, if you wanted to, 1s of everything in this because you know you're not going to banish certain cards. It's entirely up to you on how you'd want to play it. I just want to make sure that I've got enough Super Poly targets that if I do open up another Super Poly and can't finish my opponent off, I can. So if I open up 2 Polys, I break their board, do a bit of damage, set the other Poly, let them build their board back up, and then when I think they're at a vulnerable state, I hit them with the Super Poly and kind of destroy everything from there on. Alternatively, when you're looking at the new cards coming out in the upcoming set, there's obviously the Rock Monster that contribute 5 cards, which is very, very good in this deck as well, just so that if your opponent does overextend, you go, okay, cool, you've played 7, you've played 5, I'm going to tribute all your monsters, bring down, give you a token, bring down this 3k Rock Beater, and then I can build my board from then on, use my Gren Manji to get rid of your monster, or a Regeki to get rid of your monster because it's not going to interrupt me, and then you kind of push your plays further forward that way, and can really, really cause some damage. So yeah, that's it. The Gren Manji anti-meta deck. The best thing about Gren Manji is if your opponent doesn't know you're playing it, if you do brick really, really badly, but you do have a Gren Manji and you banish 10, you can set it. If they're foolish enough to attack it, they're going to be attacking into a 4k defender, which sometimes is quite funny. But yeah, it's just a fun deck, something to keep an eye on. I think Gren Manji's only ever had 1, maybe 2 prints, and even then the 2 prints would have been a long time ago. So I definitely advise picking up Gren Manjis if you have them, just for a bit of fun. Orochis are only sitting at about 8 quid each, so definitely pick them up as well. And without extravagance, of course, play your desires and allures, and let you have a bit more play around with it as well. So that is it for the Gren Manji deck profile. Do not forget that this week we do have the release of the Rocket Structure deck, so we will be bringing you an insane combo that Joe has, which ends up with, I believe it's 3 or 4 Boral Dragons, which is insane. I think you get like Savage Dragon, the Fusion Dragon, and a Link 4 Boral Sword or Boral Load. So that will be coming out on Wednesday for you guys. Then we do have the opening of the Structure decks. We'll then be bringing you a budget Rocket build, which is just using 3 of the Structure decks. And then finally, we'll bring you a full power up-to-date Rocket deck with all the cards that we now have available to us. Joe also has a very exciting DDD deck to come out for you guys that will be coming out either Monday or Tuesday, so the alternate day to this deck, and then we'll kind of go from there as well. So for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Help us hit that 15,000 subscriber mark. All you've got to do is hit the bell and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on anything. We'll also be bringing you more news as it starts leaking from Worlds and the aftermath of Worlds. We'll also be bringing you any form of updates that we get throughout the year of new sets, imports, or of course little trinkets that you can pick up in the Yu-Gi-Oh world. So thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and as always guys, happy dueling. What's up YouTube, Dad here with All Games. Thanks for watching that video. If you liked it, please hit that big thumbs up button in the bottom corner as well. And don't forget to hit the big red subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Make sure you click that notification bell as well so you know every time one of our new videos goes up. Throughout the whole year of 2019, we're going to have more deck profiles, duels, and of course pack openings for you guys to watch and enjoy the entire year round. So stay tuned for more, and as always guys, happy dueling.